This lesson is on atomic structure. There are three major parts to the atom: the protons, the neutrons, and the electrons. The protons have a positive charge. So just remember, protons, positive. The neutrons have no charge. So basically we say that they are neutral because they have no charge. The electrons have a negative charge. Now, the protons and the neutrons, because protons have a positive charge and neutrons have a neutral or no charge, and these two are quite large compared to the electron. This one is very small in size. So the protons and the neutrons are both found in the nucleus. And the electrons are actually found outside of the nucleus in the electron cloud. Okay, so if the protons and the neutrons are both found in the nucleus, this is where majority of your mass is. And so these two added together would give you what is called the mass number. The mass number is going to equal the protons plus the neutrons. And so if you know how many protons you have and how many neutrons you have, you'll know the mass number. Now, some people get this confused. The mass number is actually not on the periodic table. That is the average atomic mass, and that's taking into account all of the isotopes of that particular element. But just know it's kind of a general. If you round it off to a whole number, it's pretty close to the actual mass number of that element. Also, protons are going to be very important to us. And so these protons right here, they are the ones that's going to identify the element for us. And so by identifying the element, they get what is called the atomic number. And the atomic number just tells us how many protons. If you change the protons, then you end up changing the element. So the protons are very important to us because whatever the proton is tells you what element we're looking at. You could actually change the neutrons and we get what's called an isotope of something. Or you can change the electrons and you get an ion of something. But let's just kind of look at just the basic mass number, atomic number, how to tell how many protons, how many neutrons, and how many electrons we have. So let's just work with these two right here for this time that we have together. Alright, so let's say that you know the atomic number. Let's say that you know the atomic number is equal to 9. So what that tells me is it tells me how many protons it has. So whatever this element is, it has 9 protons. So I could go to the table at that point, I could find 9 on the table, and that would tell me exactly what element we're looking at. This element happens to be fluorine. So once I find it, I can figure out how many neutrons it has and how many electrons it has. If it's coming off the table, it's going to have the exact same number of electrons as it does protons, because the elements that are on the table don't have a charge. That means the protons and electrons are the same, or the positive and the negative charges are equal. If I want to know the neutrons, then I'm going to take its mass number and I'm going to subtract the atomic number. So I go to the table and find the mass number to be 19, and I subtract 9, because that's the atomic number, or the number of protons. And it tells me that it's going to have 10 neutrons. So if you were to see fluorine, sometimes they will write it like this, and you will have the symbol, and at the top, you're going to have the mass number, 19, and at the bottom, you're going to have the atomic number, 9. So this is the mass number, and this is the atomic number. The larger one usually goes on the top. The mass is going to be larger because you're dealing with both protons and neutrons in the mass. All right, let's look at another one. Let's say that I give you gallium. And gallium symbol is Ga. And let's say that all I give you is 70 and 31. And I'm going to ask you, how many protons does it have? How many electrons does it have? And how many neutrons does it have? Based off the information that I gave you, you would look and see, we just said that this bottom number, the smaller number, that is the atomic number. So this is going to tell me how many protons I have. That's my atomic number. So I have 31 protons. The top number is going to tell me how many protons and neutrons I have together. This is my mass number. So if I want to know neutrons, remember I'm taking mass number, that's 70. I'm subtracting atomic number, which is 31, and 70 minus 31 is going to give me 39. And then I don't have anything up here that shows me a charge of any kind. So that means that my electrons are going to be the same exact thing as my protons. So I'm going to have 31 electrons. Now, let's just say that I did, by some chance, have a number up there. Let's say that I put something up there like a +3. If I have a charge up there for you, then that tells me that the protons and the electrons are not the same. And so I would have to fix my electrons in this case. The little plus sign right here tells me that I have more protons. The number 3 tells me how many more protons I have. So it's kind of an opposite. If you see the plus, that means you have more protons. So this tells me I have 3 more protons than I do electrons. That means I'm going to take that 31 and I'm going to subtract 3 from it. And so I would actually have 28 electrons. All right, let's do one more. So I'm going to give you selenium. And I'm going to give you 79. And I'm going to give you 34. And I'm going to give you a charge of -2. And I want to know how many protons, how many neutrons, how many electrons are present in this element. So first of all, let's look at 34. 34 was my what? Atomic number. And atomic number is the same as the protons. So I'm going to put 34 for my protons. My number at the top, 79. That is also called my mass number. Mass number minus atomic number, subtracting these two, will tell me how many neutrons I have. Basically, this one, you're subtracting out the protons is what you're doing. So you're going to take mass number and subtract atomic number, and so that would be 79 minus 34, and you're going to get 45 neutrons. Now, the last thing we need to do is I gave you a charge this time. And so this charge of -2 is telling me, the negative part here tells me I have more electrons than I do protons. And the number 2 is telling me how many more. So I have 34 protons. The negative 2 tells me I have more electrons, so I'm going to add 2 back to this, and I get a grand total of 36 electrons. I hope that this has been helpful to you. Thank you for watching.